Okay, last movie I have this week for you is Wasteman, directed by Cal McMau, McMau, McMau. I hope I said that right. Cal McMau. There are quite a few different characters here, but the two main characters you want to know is Taylor, played by David Jonsson. Now, I immediately was like, I know that guy. What do I know that guy from? This guy is awesome. And this is one of those actors that is starting to show up in things, and you will probably see him and go, I've seen that guy in something before. What have I seen that guy in? And every time you see him, you're like, he's great. This guy's going to get an Oscar, or at least some more Oscar nominations in the next few years. This guy is on his way. He is the dude from Alien Romulus. He played the, android synth guy. He was in The Long Walk as one of the two main leads. He was in Rye Lane. He's been in a bunch of things. He is fantastic. He's your main lead here, playing Taylor. And the other main lead is Tom Blyth, playing D. And Taylor, when you start this movie in Wasteman, is basically in a British prison. He's been there for, I think, 15 years, they say. And right out of the gate, there's kind of intercut throughout this movie little clips that look like green, gritty, like cell phone footage from inside the prison. If you know about prisons, people like smuggle in cell phones all the time. And it's a contraband, but it's a way they can communicate and get information out or to each other. So almost like I said, almost like interstitials between scenes, you'll have a bunch of these little like clips that almost look like documentary, but I don't know if they're documentary or not, but they look real, of just violence and drugs and crazy stuff happening in prison. And then you get to the actual scenes of the movie. And it happens throughout the movie that'll go back and forth between these little like interstitials. And in a lot of ways, if you've seen the movie Starred Up, Starred, Starred Up, which is this really fantastic, gritty English prison movie from the mid-teens, this is almost like a spiritual sequel to that. And here, like I said, once again, you have your main character of Taylor, and he's there in his cell. He's just making his way through. He, I guess, is the Wasteman because he does do drugs to cope with his world. I don't remember if they say exactly what the pills are. I assume they're like a oxycodone or something like that, or OxyContin. It's some sort of a pill that he can crush up and snort. And I'm assuming it's some sort of an opiate that he gets. And anyway, he gets that in payment for doing things like you can see he's a cook. And he'll do the in your cell cooking, cuisine. He also cooks in the actual cafeteria for the prison. He also does haircuts. And early on, you see him doing haircuts for kind of you can tell they're like the prison wing kind of warlord type dudes. They're the dudes that kind of run the wing. They have the drugs, they have the power, and you can tell they're threatening, but if you're on their side, they probably are going to be okay with you. The problem is the beginning and inciting moments of this movie are when Taylor gets a brand new cellmate named D, once again played by Tom Blyth, and this dude is obviously bad news. Like, he comes in and immediately he has the whole cell with Taylor just filled with contraband, filled with candy and all this stuff that would basically be obviously stuff you can use to buy anything and trade with anything in the prison. Candy and food and sodas. He had his own switch in there immediately set up. So obviously from wherever he came from, whatever prison he got transferred from, he had a level of power within that system. And he's coming here and he's just setting up shop and he's ready to go. Strangely though, very quickly, you think, oh man, this is going to be a total threat to Taylor and this Taylor's going to be in danger. Well, actually, this guy immediately befriends Taylor. He becomes nice to him, and they're getting along pretty well. Taylor really quickly also finds out that he's going to get an early release because his offense, which was a drug-related death, that he didn't kill someone directly, but he had sold someone drugs that had caused them to die, some extra strong drugs. Those kind of offenses have got basically reassessed throughout the system and are getting early releases because of the overcrowding of the prison system. And they're deeming them not as big of a threat, and therefore they're going to give those people early releases. So Taylor's going to get an early release, and you know that, in the next couple of weeks. So essentially this movie's going to have about a 2-week span, and you're like, oh boy, what's happening leading to Taylor's release? And meanwhile, you've got this D guy setting up camp in the cell with Taylor and causing a kind of a disruption of the power structure of this wing, obviously. but also at the same time, like I said, befriending Taylor. He gives him a cell phone. He lets him contact his son that he's never contacted since he's been in prison all this time, and slowly builds up this relationship with him. And as you might guess, the kind of wing kingpins and this new guy D are going to have conflict very quickly. Neither side is going to be very, I guess, receptive to living with the other person having power within that system. And as you might also guess, this puts Taylor right in the middle, because Taylor is friendly, or at least mildly friendly, to the original Kingpin dudes. He cuts their hair and stuff, and he gets drugs from them, and he basically just keeps a low profile. Meanwhile, like I said, this new D guy is expecting his new buddy in his cell to have his back, especially when it comes to the growing animosity between D and the current kingpins of the prison wing. And that's really much all you need to know. If you like gritty prison dramas with a good deal of tension, or of course a relatively deal of violence. There's always violence in these kind of movies. If you like those kind of things, I think this is going to be a really entertaining movie for you, a really solid movie for you. It never goes ultra cartoonish. Like, it always stays really grounded. There are a few moments that might kind of stretch belief a little bit. There's a point where someone has to get a weapon, and I wondered how there was no system there to account for the missing of that weapon. It seems like that was plot hole, but you can let that kind of thing go in this movie. But I think the strength of this movie, other than just creating these really grounded and interesting and really volatile characters, and almost the opposite with Taylor, with him being almost like I said, he's the guy who wants to just keep his head down, and he's forced to take sides multiple times in this movie in ways that are really dangerous to him. And I think that's the key success of this movie, is this kind of a ratcheting up of tension around the character of Taylor, and how is he going to navigate the ever-growing violence and threat of violence between these two sides, where Taylor, that is, stuck in the middle and having to figure out, how does he survive? Which side does he pick? And if he doesn't want to pick a side, how in the heck is he going to possibly survive this situation without something terrible happening? Really good, really entertaining movie. Does it go a really above and beyond and get deep into characters? It goes a little bit with Taylor. I mean, definitely you can see him as a human being and what his motivations are, and his relationship with his son that he's missed, and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, like I said, it's a prison crime thriller to some degree. So I think as that, it's very solid. I'm going to probably go 4 stars for Man. I could do a spoiler. I don't think I'm going to really do it, but I could do a spoiler on how the final sort of a showdown situation plays out. But I don't think there's really an advantage to spoiling that here, other than to say, I think the way that played out was satisfying and kept me guessing to some degree, and definitely kept the tension really high all the way to the end. So 4 stars for Wasteman. Once again, a really good and solid movie for this week.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.